Hi, Sila. I realized that the title of this is wrong because it says Men in the Gap. And, anyways, we can fix it later. Okay, I'm gonna send invite. Maybe that'll
Okay, this works.
work. Okay, good. Now let's see if we can get GirlSpring.
Okay. I don't know why it works on your account. That's so strange.
See the request. I'm clicking accept and then go live with GirlSpring, but then nothing's happening. Let me try to request her one more time. Yeah, Bella. I think I've invited you, but let me do it.
Oh my
We
gosh.
got it.
Oh, yay!
This is great.
Finally.
Oh my
Okay.
Wow.
gosh.
It only took, wow, I don't
Three
even know what's the
accounts.
difference, but it took 20 minutes. It all
Yeah.
works out.
But we got it now. We
Okay,
got it now.
great. So, do you want to start with the introduction, Olivia, or do you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay.
My name is Olivia. I am the vice president of GirlSpring, which is an online magazine for girls. And today, I'm a senior at Montevallo High School, and today we're going to talk about school and stress and mental health. And we have Miss Renee and Miss Bella here. Bella, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, guys. My name is Bella. I go to Vestavia Hills High Schools. I'm a junior and I am the secretary of Girl Spring.
Renee?
Okay. Yeah. So, hi, my name's Renee. I'm the founder and the president of Mend the Gap, and I'm a senior in high school, and I'm from California.
Yeah, long
Or I
way
don't know.
away.
Sorry, I don't
Yeah.
know if many people will know like the school I go to since I may be but I'm from a suburb of Los Angeles.
Yeah, Renee's very cool.
Yeah.
Mend the Gap is like a mental health organization. So you want to talk about Mend the Gap and explain what it is?
Yeah, so Mend the Gap is a nonprofit that I started in March 2020 just as the pandemic hit. And basically, it's centered around giving specifically teenagers, but we also work with elderly groups on free mental health resources and providing free mental health tips on our Instagram and blog. And we recently have done a program where we get volunteers from online, and we have high school students send letters to elderly nursing homes, as we've identified that the elderly community is kind of a very impacted community due to the pandemic. And we also have held mental health conferences. Most recently, one ours being about cultural trauma and how to cope with that. And then additionally, we have we're doing this collaboration with GirlSpring, obviously. And yeah, so we also, if you want to take a look at our Instagram, you can see at Mend the Gap Official. And in our bio, we also have a link to Slack, which actually, I'm not sure if I put it in just yet, but I think maybe after this live stream, you'll be able to see it in our bio. So it's kind of almost like a Discord channel, you could say, where we have an open forum where people can just talk about their mental health, and it can be completely anonymous. So just if you feel ever like the need to vent or um, get all your ideas out, it's a great way to um, have an opportunity to maybe meet new people and kind of for other people to hear your side of the story and vice versa.
That's awesome. Bella, do you want to talk about what GirlSpring does?
Yeah, so GirlSpring is an online magazine. Our slogan is to empower a girl to change the world. It's basically an all-inclusive online place where girls can submit articles, artwork, poetry, photography for other girls to read and kind of interact with. We are big on girl empowerment and just kind of we are all inclusive of all kinds of topics. We talk about everything from mental health to, I mean, really anything you can think of. It's on there on the website, and it's all from girls. And so it's a really great environment to kind of just encourage girls being empowered and just being their best selves and kind of getting rid of society's stigma around females and just kind of gender inequality and kind of attacking that and creating a force for good that is all female powered. So it's a really awesome thing. If you want to check out our online magazine, you can go to girlspring.com and you can look at the website, check out the articles. We have a group of girls called the Springboarders. That's me and Olivia are both Springboarders. And the Springboarders are basically like the teen advisory board for the website. So we make a lot of the decisions regarding it, and all of us write for the website and submit things on a monthly basis. So that's kind of like where the heart of the website is. So it's a really awesome female empowerment focused place. And I feel like Mend the Gap and GirlSpring really go together because, like I said, we do talk about mental health on GirlSpring, and Mend the Gap focuses on mental health. So it really works well together. And I think this is a great collaboration. So I'm excited for us to interact today.
Great.
Yeah, and I know that the last year, us being like at home for school and then a mix of at home and in person has been like new for all of us and can be like really stressful at times. And so the purpose of this live stream is for each of us to kind of talk about our experiences with school, especially over the last year. And I'm a senior, so I kind of feel like I know my way around it a little bit. And we want to send advice to anyone who might be struggling and answer questions about how we stay organized. And so, who would like to start today?
I can go first if that's fine. Um, So my topic, we've all kind of decided topics on what specifically we're going to present for this live stream. And mine was kind of dealing with procrastination through mindfulness and certain tips and techniques I've learned through over the years. So yeah, since I'm a senior, I guess I've had my fair share of dealing with different techniques and kind of figuring out what works best for me. But obviously, like, different things are going to work for different people. So I guess take this with a grain of salt, if you will. I guess before I go into this, just as background, I'm a pretty avid procrastinator, I'd like to say, given my history, like in the past. And I mean, it's probably not the best way to like label myself as a procrastinator, but I've done my fair share of procrastination. Like some days I'd go home after school and just, even scroll on my phone for hours and like neglect all my responsibilities. And it's really easy to get caught up in a TV show or just, your friend calls you and you get distracted. So I've had my fair share of that. And it's really difficult, especially when, I want to do my best in school. I have a lot of extracurriculars to keep up with. And in doing some research, the main cause of it, I forgot, it was the Mental Health Institute that said procrastination is often a coping mechanism for stress, as maybe you guys have all guessed. And I think for sure in my experience, like now that as a senior, I have college applications, and over the summer, the almost fear and stigma that college applications has made me basically entirely avoid doing extra work in advance. I had a ton of opportunities where I could have been proactive and done it early in, June, um, with my applications, and, that didn't really happen. So when I was kind of in that situation of procrastinating, I've kind of learned how to be self-aware and realize that, it is, at the end of the day, procrastination isn't helping anything. And also, procrastination, you know, in general, just doesn't, it worsens the situation rather than alleviates it. So, kind of tips that I have to overcome this is mindfulness, which I've talked about a lot. And, um, I think there are lots of websites that talk about mindfulness, but no one really goes into what that actually entails. So I've talked about this both with Bella and Olivia previously about how I like to meditate. So after school, if I had a stressful day, there's lots on my mind, I'll turn on you can find any music on YouTube, really. There's meditation music, like 15-minute calming music, and just listen to that and focus on my breathing and kind of try to just take my mind off what's stressing me, because it's easy to get caught up in like, oh, I have this assignment due and all these deadlines. So that is the main one that I have. And then also included in mindfulness, I think, is exercise. So I think I'm not sure what people do to cope with stress slash procrastination, but oftentimes if I'm really stressed, just going on a walk in my neighborhood and kind of having time to clear my thoughts has been super helpful. And it kind of, while it's not doing homework, it's like better than going on your phone. It makes you feel productive, it makes you feel good. Exercise, obviously, if you're gonna be scientific, releases endorphins. So, like, scientifically, it also makes you happy if you like to think of it like in a more technical sense. But that's been extremely helpful. Yoga, also I've done. There's a ton of guided like yoga classes on YouTube for free, and some really great instructors, and kind of help center me throughout the day and reflect. And I think a lot of us can easily get caught up in negative thoughts, and social media also increases that. I think, um, as spoken, I think it's talked about a lot, and how social media can affects a lot of, especially teens, mentally. So, yeah, yoga is a great way to just get away from the world, social media, and do something for yourself that can alleviate any stress. And then from there, take it step by step with your homework. Uh, in terms of actually getting your work done, whether it's homework or project or like college applications, what I usually like to do, and I think a lot of other people champion this, is doing your hardest assignment first and then gradually going to an easier, from like the hardest assignment to the easiest assignment. And some people have said the opposite, but I think, oh yes, Yoga by Adrian. I saw that too. That's really funny. Um, Sorry, got distracted. But usually, some people have said do the easiest assignment to the hardest assignment. But there was actually a study um, done on this. I kind of like the psychology behind it. So the reason you would like to do the hardest assignment first is because once you get that all out of the way, and kind of a lot of your energy is exerted on that, um, right when you're still energized, when it gets like later in the day where you get your energy levels start to drop, your assignments are progressively getting easier. So it's like, in terms of how your cognitive function, naturally it's going to be easier for you to do those subsequent assignments. And then vice versa, if you did it easiest to hardest, as you get tired and your energy levels progressively drop, it'd be much harder to find the capacity in your brain at 10 o'clock to do your hardest assignment of the day, rather than maybe getting it done at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So yeah, using these techniques have helped me a lot through high school. Um, I still, I mean, obviously, procrastination is kind of a trivial thing, and you know, some days you can be really productive and some days you can't be, so it's not necessarily like um, kind of a thing. It just fluctuates from day to day depending on how you're feeling, obviously. But I think getting stuck with a routine and certain coping mechanisms to try to combat this is really important. And yeah, so I used to be the worst procrastinator in freshman year, and although some time to time I kind of slip up, I think I've improved a lot through these techniques. Um, and yeah, I've also kind of talking about it earlier, I've also kind of tackled my college applications along the process. What, like I said earlier, how I kind of was trying to stray away from it. I eventually tackled it, and I'm still in the process, but I've got a lot of work done. So there's kind of a, yeah, procrastination is kind of a thing that um, can come from time to time, but there's like a silver lining to this all that, you know, I went through kind of my journey with this. And I think overall it's made me a stronger person.
And I think that like procrastination for me like causes so much anxiety and it just makes me keep procrastinating. And so
Yeah.
my topic was organization and like how I personally stay on top of all of my work because if I do procrastinate, then everything goes downhill for me and I get really, really stressed out. So some of the things that I do are it's really simple, just multiple to-do lists and a really, really up-to-date calendar. I try to make sure that everything is always written down. And for me, I get really, really stressed out looking at a to-do list that has like a bunch of things on it. So I separate all of my to-do list into GirlSpring, school, this organization, this other thing that I need to get done. So that way I'm not looking at everything at one time and I don't feel so overwhelmed. And then that way I can also kind of prioritize what things are more need to get done or what are like more important to me. So, for example, a school is always the first to-do list that I would look at because school is, the most important thing. And so then from there, I can kind of prioritize my other things. So if there's something that I know is coming up for Girl Spring, like if I need to get my article written, that's, the next thing that I'm going to look at instead of just having a big list of everything. Um, and another thing that has helped me a lot with this organization is like knowing that it's okay to say no. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially in school, because you're trying to get into college and you want to, be a part of everything and have a really good resume. But really, what's most important is your grades, but also, making sure that you're okay and that you are, having good mental health days and are feeling good. And so it's okay to turn things down and to quit. You don't want to be a quitter. That's nobody wants to be a quitter, but it's okay. You can say this is too much for me. I have too much on my plate. I need to step back and do the things that are most important to me and that need to get done, and maybe put something else to the side. um, and that's something that I did this year. I've been marching all throughout high school, and then when COVID hit, I didn't do marching band last year. And I joined Girl Spring and I did all these things, and then I got back in person, was like, yes, I could do marching band again. And then I realized, no, I can't. I have all these other things on my plate that are just so important to me now. And I need to take time for myself and step back from marching band because I have things that are just more important. And so it's okay to quit and it's okay to say no if that's what's right for you. And then another thing that I do specifically with my to-do list is I put things on them that are like fun. So like under a list of all these things I need to do for school, one of them will be like paint my nails because then I can check something off my to-do list that I want to do. And I also will put like school on my to-do list because that's something I know I'm going to do, and so that's something I know I will get the chance to check off because it does feel really good to check things off of a to-do list and to say, I did something today, I did it. Like, and even if you're not, if you don't have anything planned, put brushing your teeth on your to-do list, because then you'll feel accomplished and you'll feel good about your day, because really everything that you do is an accomplishment, regardless of whether it's an assignment or just, watching a movie that you've wanted to watch for a few months. So those are some of the things that I do just to try to stay on top of my work, and make sure that I am doing things like for myself and not just, being overwhelmed and stressed. And so yeah, that's it for me. Bella, what was your topic?
Well, I loved what you just said. I really like your idea of putting something fun on your like school to-do list. That's a great idea because I feel like we often just push that to the side and say, well, I have to get this stuff done, and you don't take time for yourself. Um, so I think that's huge. And also, I really liked your point about saying no. I'm currently a junior, like I mentioned, and so I'm like trying to get all these things ready to put on my college applications. I'm like, I need this leadership position and I need to join this organization. And I feel like that kind of takes away from the quality of each thing that I'm doing because I'm spreading myself so thin. And like the junior year of high school alone is already so much, and I'm learning that. I'm 2 months in and I'm learning that. Um, so I think it's really important that you learn to say no and you learn that it's okay to quit something when it's just too much for you, because you have to take care of yourself, or else nothing that you do will ever be quality, and you won't be proud of anything that you do because you know that you could have done more, but you just physically weren't able to because, or you just mentally weren't able to because you just didn't take time for yourself, and you just spread yourself way too thin. So I love everything that you just said. My point really ties into what you talked about with your to-do list and everything. I wanted to mention my planner. I'm a huge planner person. I spoiled myself at the beginning of the year by getting a nice little custom planner. It has my name on the front, and it has like little sections for each week, like for each of my classes, and it like has the class names on it. I love it. It's one of the best investments I've ever made. But I'm huge on planners. You don't have to buy this like big planner. You can get like a $10 one from Target. That's great. Just find a system that works for you. I love just having a planner designated for school, that I can go in after school every day and just lay everything out because I like to just be able to see everything, especially when it's organized by class. And I can kind of put stars by the things I need to prioritize for that day. And it helps me just stay organized and up to date. And it just helps me kind of mentally lay everything out and see everything so that I'm best able to tackle it. And then also, I wanted to talk about just um, study skills in general. Oh, Sela, I can't do school without my planner. I would forget every single assignment. Yes, I love, I love my planner so much. Get a planner, guys. Get a planner. Um, but I feel like a lot of school related stress comes from the grades. Like school is, it's all about the grades. It's all about getting into college. It's all about your transcript, and it's all about your GPA. And that can be a lot when you're basing your whole life around numbers. That can be really stressful, and just like keeping numbers and getting A's and getting whatever number grade you want. That can get really stressful, and that can kind of take over your mental health. So I feel like a great way to avoid school stress is to just be prepared for school and to just be on top of what you're doing. So planner is a great way to be on top of your assignments. But tests, it's not so easy to just do your assignments. You can't really procrastinate a test, like it's gonna come. So you have to be prepared for your test when it does come. I find that when I don't study for a test, and when I don't spend the needed amount of time studying for it, like I feel it in me. Like I just feel unprepared. I feel really stressed, and I just feel like really gross. And I'm like, I know when I go in this classroom, things are not going to go well for me. And I hate that feeling. So I find that when I study for a test and when I spend the right amount of time studying for that test, I feel so much calmer. Even if I don't do well on that test, if I know that I put in the effort beforehand, it's fine. It may hurt for a minute, but like in retrospect, I'll be like, I did everything I could have done. And so I can be okay with that grade, and I don't need to be all upset about it because I did all that I could do and I put in my best effort. Um, so over the years, I've acquired a series of kind of study skills that help me prepare for my tests. I think it can be hard to figure out how you need to study for each thing, because I feel like each class is so different in how you have to study for things. So for tests that require a lot of memorization, like vocab tests and things like that, I'm a big Quizlet stan. I love my Quizlets. They are the best thing ever. You don't even have to like take the time to make a Quizlet. Chances are somebody's made it for you. Just search it up, search up your textbook, search up your vocab book. It's probably already there for you. Then you just study it. Do it on your way to school, do it when you're sitting in the parking lot, do it whenever, and then you'll be prepared for your test that requires like memorization. And then for a history class, I feel like history is such a weird one because people think that you can just memorize it and then you like go into class and you have to write essays on like the American Revolution, and they're like, uh-oh, my memorization's not going to do me good here. So what I like to do is kind of weird, but like usually my teachers have like presentations. And so I go on my presentation and I get out my notes and I pretend that I'm giving a seminar on the topic. And so I just kind of like recite everything and I tell the story because history is really a story. And then that really shows me what I know and what I don't know. And then for like math classes, practice problems, you just got to do the math and that's about it. And then for science, I feel like science is different based on the science that you're taking, but reading the textbooks and kind of reviewing your notes is huge. And then for overall like YouTube videos, I love watching YouTube videos to kind of review information and make sure that it's in my head. I love Crash Course with John and Hank Green. I love those. I love Heimler's History for those history classes. And then Khan Academy is also good for like any subject. So if you're just struggling with school, especially with online school, and you just don't get to interact with your teachers as much, using those YouTube videos, using Quizlet, I mean, it's a lifesaver. And if you study for your tests, you'll feel so much more at ease with yourself and with your grades. So that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about, just studying for those tests.
And I remember something that Sela mentioned when we were on the call with her is that her friends, like, they don't tell each other the grades that they get, which I think is so brilliant because one of the things that Montevallo does is they, rank us so that we can have a valedictorian and a salutatorian at the end of senior year. And at the end of every semester, we can see our ranks on our transcripts. And for me, at least, it has always been a huge stress. And we all know each other's ranks and we're always asking each other, and it's a lot of pressure, and it really does not help us at all, and it just makes us all compare each other to compare people to ourselves, and that is never good in any situation. And so if you can, the advice that I would give based on Sela's advice is, it's okay to like keep those your grades and your rank and anything to yourself. And, don't I wouldn't suggest asking other people what they're getting either, because that's just gonna, make you compare yourself to them and think that maybe you aren't working hard enough or doing well enough when really you are. And so just don't compare yourself, because that you'll just send yourself down a rabbit hole of I need to be studying harder, or I'm doing something wrong, or I'm just not as smart. And so, yeah, I think Sela was right, hit the nail on the head when she told us all about that.
Yeah, I
And
was also gonna,
so,
oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I was also gonna say, wait, just give me, yeah, comparison is like, these comments are really funny, are like really, I'm getting distracted. So comparison's probably been like a big enemy of mine. My school doesn't do ranks for the sole purpose that kids get way too competitive and kind of like almost like territorial, like they don't want to help each other in homework, they don't want to share answers. So I think for sure just knowing your boundaries with friends and not being so overbearing, because at the end of the day, um, grades are just numbers. And how would I put it? Like, I think Bella made a really great point that whenever I have a test and let's say I studied a lot and then I'll end up kind of with a grade that I'm not too happy with, it's really easy to say like in retrospect, like, oh, I could have done better or I could have studied harder. But if I like spent, all week preparing for a test, then at the end of the day, I just have to accept that it was my best, and no matter the outcome. So obviously, you always, like, ideally would like to always get, you know, a certain number on your grades, whether it's A or B. Um, but, certain circumstances happen, and just kind of accepting yourself with that, and also not determining your whole self-worth on grades is something that's really important, and something that I think a lot of like people struggle with, including myself.
Another thing that I wanted to mention was like, I know that sometimes we don't get the best like teachers, and some teachers can be really, frustrating and feels like they're like against you, like you're always, not making the grades that you want, and that can be so super, super frustrating. But also, teachers are there to help us, and I know that it can be nerve-wracking to like go and reach out to a teacher about a grade, because like for my teachers, sometimes if I have a grade that to me is low but maybe to the teacher is not, doesn't appear low, but it still bothers me, that's something that I am always nervous about going and asking, because like what are they, how are they gonna, like, are they gonna think that I'm, trying to be mean about grades? I don't know. It stresses me out. But at the end of the day, teachers are there to like to help and to give advice and want to see you do well. And so I think that it can be a really good thing to reach out, even if you maybe don't get the response that you want. It's still worth it to say, hey, what's going on? How can I study better, or what am I missing in class that is causing me to not do as well as I want to?
And also, one thing that I've kind of struggled with, and I remember um, Bella touched on it a little bit, is how, you know, at the like a lot of high school students, I'd say a majority, when they're in a class, the end goal is your grade. Your like whatever grade you get, your that is like basically how you determine how well you did in the class. And one thing that I've tried to do a little bit more is also just valuing the actual learning that I'm getting, because so often when you're really stressed and have a lot of things to do the day before an exam, you kind of just cram everything in for the short-term memory, and then just kind of dispose of it the day, like right after the test. Like sometimes I can like literally right after the test, I don't retain any other information. And while yes, it can be like nice if I get the outcome that I would want, but just in terms of like a healthier mindset when you're approaching school is genuinely just try to learn the content. And also this could in turn improve your grades as well, when you just really want to learn as much as you can about certain topics instead of just trying to cram it in all at once.
I totally
So
agree with that. And I'm sorry, Olivia.
go ahead.
Okay. Also, to kind of tie in with that, try if you have the opportunity, try and take classes that interest you and maybe tie into a future career interest that you have. I know from my school, in our junior and senior years, you can choose what science you want to take. Like, it's not like you take chemistry or take biology. Um, so, like, people often take like physics because maybe they want to go into engineering or something. Take a class that interests you and take those electives that interest you and that you can see yourself using that knowledge in the future. Because I think a lot of times, like Renee mentioned, um, we like learn it and then we're like, we're never going to use this. Like, I'm sitting in math class thinking, I am never going to use matrices in my life. But I mean, if you take classes that you know you're going to use that knowledge, you're going to respect your time in that class a lot more, and you're going to be a lot more grateful for everything that you're doing and for that teacher, and you're just going to be a lot more intentional with what you're doing in that class. So if you have the opportunity, it's not always the case, but take classes that you enjoy and that interest you. So yeah.
And I also think like not doing the same thing all the time and like at school is really helpful. Like this year for the first time I'm taking classes that like I didn't know anything about. Like I'm taking psychology and computer science, and I did not know if I was going to do well in those classes or not, because I really don't know anything about them. But I'm really enjoying them, and it feels like Renee mentioned, like information that like classes that I'm not just trying to make a good grade in. Like I feel like I'm actually learning about the world and learning about how computers work, and that is something that I'm gonna like remember. And this is the first time in high school that I've kind of gotten the chance to really take classes that I, really get to pick instead of just kind of like the path that I'm like supposed to take. And so it has been a lot of fun to just take classes that like are about things I want to know about, not just about, like Renee said, the grade at the end. Um, and I know that like stuff that I've written for English classes, I'm using them now to help me write like college, like answer college questions and write college essays, because you never like questions on college applications are extremely diverse and you never know what they're going to ask you on Common App. And having a bunch of stuff written like has really helped me, because at least I can go back and look at things that I've written about, and on GirlSpring too, like things that I've written about on GirlSpring, and kind of use that to answer some of these questions on Common App. So you never know like what the content that you're learning in class is gonna help you with, even if you think I'm never gonna look at this again. You might look at it again. So it's good to like actually take in the moment and take in what you're learning, like Renee said. So if you guys have questions, the viewers, you can enter it into the little Q&A button at the bottom. I have some questions while they ask questions. Um, so I know, Bella, that you do calligraphy, and I don't know a lot about like if it's a business, but if it is, can you tell us about how you like manage your calligraphy plus all the other stuff that you're doing?
Yes, so it's not really a business, but sometimes I do have like little gigs. I guess I don't really know how to describe it. Like sometimes during Christmas, I did like ornaments for people, and then I've done like large like invitation orders, or I do chalkboards for weddings or things like that. But yeah, sometimes it can be a lot because you think it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna do cursive on this little thing and it's gonna take 5 minutes, but like it's a whole process and you have to like sketch it out and redo it 20 times to get it right. So it definitely does take time. And I remember one time I had this like 200 envelope, like B'nai Mitzvah invitation thing that I had to address. And it took so much time. And so it was really hard to kind of balance that with my schoolwork. Um, so again, I'm kind of coming back to the planner. It always comes back to the planner. I'm writing like at the beginning of the week, my teachers typically give us like what we call a week at a glance, and it like shows all of our tests for the week and assignments for the week. And so I write all that down in my planner so that I can see my week, and then I can kind of say, okay, on this afternoon I'm going to have more time than on my other afternoons. So I can devote more time to doing this or doing my calligraphy or just whatever. So I think just having a way to plan out your time and see your time is going to be really helpful.
And then I have a question for Renee about how you, Renee, manage Mend the Gap and all the other amazing stuff you're doing in school.
Yeah, so obviously this past like few months have been pretty hectic with managing Mend the Gap, but I'd say okay, yeah, it has for sure been a little bit rough, especially when you're trying to navigate college applications. But a main thing that I like to do with time management is even like during the day, like during school hours, if um, our teacher gives maybe like 10 minutes of downtime, I actually use those 10 minutes to do a math assignment or, finish up on certain essays, whether it's editing. Um, and because I think a lot of the times, like even these 10 minutes, people just use to go on their phones because they're like, oh, I'm not going to get anything really substantial done. But when you think about it, a lot of the time in classes, there's a lot of downtime given. Even even when there's like a lecture in class, sometimes, and it's kind of like a review day. I use all the time I can get on extra things that I have, whether it's homework, whether it's college applications, and or if it's certain work I have to do for Mend the Gap. So that's the main thing I do. Another thing is also I love to go to cafes because I think they're a great way to get your mind off things and kind of be in a new environment. And in terms of like time management. I think since you're away from home, you kind of have like a set schedule of, oh, I'm going to be here from 3 to 5, just so completely doing work. And then after that 5 o'clock time, like after that kind of time block, um, you have another thing scheduled for the day. So everything's kind of scheduled in time blocks so that you can have a good idea of what you're going to be spending your time doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really I wish we had more little cafes where I live because we do have a couple and I love that. It also feels like so grown up to go and sit in a cafe, which I know is a weird thing to say, but I don't know. I like it. Um,
Same.
so
No,
we have one.
I see a lot of people also at the cafes that are like working on their like work projects, or there's like lots of college students or grad students. So I kind of feel like one of them, and I'm also just motivated when I see other people around me working really hard. So it's like I kind of have to work hard, and I'll just like put in some lo-fi beats, listen to that, and then just like get all my work done.
We have one question. If you could speak to your freshman year self, what is one thing you think she should know? It's a hard one.
But this takes a lot of reflection.
I think for me, like a lot of my extracurricular stuff has changed from what I expected because I have an older brother who is 5 years older than me, and so and he was in the band and he was in the junior city council, which I'm in, and so I watched him do all these great things at high school and like wanted to do them all, and so I think one of the things I would tell myself is like, you're going to have a different experience and a different path. And it's okay to like not want to do something just because you've seen somebody else do it. Like, you can say no and you can decide to do something totally different. It's okay. Like, you're going to be just as fine. And I think like I said earlier, being able to quit, I think that it would have been scary to my freshman year self to know that I had just like quit something that I really did enjoy at the time. But like it's okay to step back, and I think that that is a really important message. So.
Yeah, I think that's great. Um, I would probably tell my freshman year self to get more involved in things that I'm passionate about, like you were saying, and not just things that are kind of mainstream and cool, and like do things that maybe some people think are kind of weird, but that you enjoy, because that's how you find like the people that are going to stick with you for a long time. We didn't really talk that much about friends today, but like friend groups and popularity and all that's a huge part of school related stress. So, I mean, just putting yourself into places that are going to give you lasting friendships and just surrounding yourself with people that care about the same things that you do is huge, and that are passionate about the same things that you do. And I would also probably tell myself to just stop caring so much. I feel like as I've gone through high school, it's gotten like worse. Like I've just gotten so caught up in like college and whatever, and it's like it's okay. Like at the end of the day, it's okay. Like you can just it's okay. You can stop caring so much, and just enjoy your 4 years of high school, enjoy your last years of official childhood, and kind of make more time for yourself.
Yeah, mine's also extracurricular related. I was gonna say is kind of related to Olivia's is don't limit yourself, because going into freshman year, I was in debate, um, and I thought like, oh, this is like a really good activity that I can get really good at, and it looks great for colleges, and a lot of like professional people do it, and I was like, this is like what I'm gonna do, and in like being in debate for a few months, I kind of realized it wasn't for me, and I feel like I tried to force it. Um, but at the end of the day, like there were so many other things that were more suited for me. So, being a part of Mend the Gap, um, I got really into volleyball, so I've been on the volleyball team all 4 years. So, yeah, things like that. Just don't like do activities like with a certain expectation and just try a lot of things and keep an open mind.
That is awesome. I think that is all the questions. If anyone else who is watching would like to ask a question, you can put it in the chat or in the little Q&A box, either way. I guess, Renee, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe college applications? Because I know you and I are both doing it, and Bella's about to start doing it. So fun. I guess my advice for people who are about to start it or like are gonna do it next year, is like, okay, so this is gonna sound crazy and is not manageable, and I do not suggest this, but I'm applying to 15 colleges because I just have not been very good at narrowing down my list. So, as someone who has given myself an impossible task, I think that what has helped me the most is, well, my parents have been helping me a lot with it. And something that we've been doing is like keeping a list of like what colleges want what essays and what colleges, because some schools, once you apply, you are automatically like entered for all of their scholarships, but some schools have scholarships that you're going to want to apply for separately. And so you have to look at every school and see which schools have scholarships that you're going to need to write something else for, because otherwise you're going to miss the deadlines and not apply for all the scholarships. And so it's really important to like keep a list of everything, and like dates. And then I know that a lot of people talk about scholarships that are outside of schools, um, because I when I started applying for scholarships that were outside of like the schools I'm applying to, I was like, oh, nobody applies for these. Like, these are gonna be so easy. But really, it's not that worth it, in my opinion, because that's not true. A lot of people apply for a lot of scholarships, and your mental energy and your time should first be spent on the applications that are going to be like for schools. And so my biggest piece of advice would be to not worry about those other scholarships. And if there's some that are big and that you think that you would do really well on and do want to apply to, write down the date that is due, and push it aside until that month or something, so that you're not spending all of your time on those outside scholarships that at the end of the day, you know, aren't gonna do that much for you. Um, so that is my advice. Renee, do you have anything about that?
I would say for me, what I like is having a spreadsheet of all my deadlines. And, a lot of colleges have supplemental essays that are pretty similar. Um, or like that you could use that you can use the same essay for. So I put all the similar prompts in a section so that I can kind of visually see what I need to do. And then I also have a visual representation of, how many days I have left to this deadline. And I think just in general, being organized makes me want rather than procrastinate. Once you have a clear idea of like all the things you need to do and kind of narrow it down, then it's really helpful. And also, I think a lot of people spend time like doing each individual essay when in reality, some essays you can basically use the same essay for. Like, granted, you may need to do a little bit of editing, but you don't need to start from scratch and just write a whole other essay. So instead of writing like 20 separate essays, it really becomes like 6 or 5, which is still a lot, but it's a lot more